Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, I am Lady Trialdi. Now I would like to explain a little bit about the main indicators of macroeconomics and their measurement. So we'll be talking about the GDP concept, and then after that we will be discussing about how to measure the economic growth and inflation as well as the unemployment. Okay, let's now discuss further about the concept of the GDP. As we already know, the definition of GDP contains several important keywords, and from the keywords, we could identify which activity is included or excluded from the GDP calculation. Okay, now let's check the understanding of the GDP concept by answering this question. And for the first question, I think it's quite straightforward since GDP can measure several important things here. Then we know the importance of GDP, using GDP, especially in macroeconomics context. All right. And then for the second question, before we do the evaluation about the contribution between entertainer and lecturers, we have to make sure that the activities are really included in the GDP calculation. All right. And for sure, from the information, all these conditions are check mark. All right. And we know that the services are provided here. And for final use, because we don't have information that the services are used for become as used as input in other production process, so it must be for final use. And the services provided are legally produced. And now the last thing is to evaluate the market value. And how could we know that whether the services provided have market value or not? And I think it's quite simple, right? Since we know that since both entertainer and lecturer receive income from their job, all right, so it means that the market gives value for the service provided by both the entertainer and lecturers. Okay, and since GDP measures the market value of output, or whether it is goods or services, okay, since the market value of the services provided by the entertainer, or the market value of the income, okay, as reflected by income of the entertainers bigger than the lecturers, so we know easily that the contribution from the entertainer is bigger than the lecturer. Okay, and for number 3, the opposite to the question number 2. All right. Okay, for sure, again, this all condition are satisfied, but the problem is with this criteria. Okay, growing flowers without selling it, and mothers cooking meals for her children, and the same is true for the for father who teaches give knowledge to his children. So no market value there because there is no sales of the products in the market. Okay, so which activity will be counted in GDP? The answer is none, because there's no market value in these activities. And how about number 4? In number 4, so look at this. There are two products produced. First is wool, and secondly is sweaters. All right. As for wool, wool is intermediary goods. Why we know it is intermediary goods? Because look, the wool sold to Omar from Prawes, it is used to produce sweaters. All right. So wool is intermediary goods. So since it is intermediary goods, so the sales of wool worth $25 will be excluded from the GDP calculation. Okay, and how about the sweaters? There are 4 sweaters here, right? There are 4 sweaters, and then we know from the information 3 are sold. Okay, 3 sold sweaters. And also we have information that 1 sweater is unsold. So how we treat these activities, okay, in GDP? For 3 sold sweater, of course, it's clear it is included in the GDP, right? Because it is sold to Anissa and her friends for their final consumption. So these sweaters, okay, the value of these 3 sweaters will be included in GDP. So 3 times $150 or $150 this amount of money will be recorded in GDP. And how about the one unsold sweaters? The one unsold sweater will be also included in the GDP. All right, the one unsold sweater will be categorized or will go to the inventory of Omar. All right, and when we have inventory, it is as if that the producers buys the product he or she produces himself or herself. Okay, so it's clear inventory is included in GDP. So in this case, so we have to add to our GDP 1 times $50. So we have another $50 as the GDP. So in total, from question number 4, we have $200 from the activity that's recorded in GDP. Okay, and then for number 5, okay, it's also quite similar, but look at the situation right now. Okay, for number 5, it is stated clearly that the wool again is the intermediary good for sweater production, and as we can observe here, Prowess successfully sells 950 kilograms of the wools. In total, he produces 1,000 kilograms. So this is again an intermediary goods, so it will be excluded from the GDP calculation. But look, he produces 1,000 kilogram. So after selling 1,950 kilogram, it means that there are 50 kilograms of wool that are unsold. Okay, and just like before, this 50 kilograms unsold wool, it becomes inventory for Prowess. Okay, since it becomes inventory, not intermediary goods, so this inventory will be recorded in the GDP. All right, so 50 the value of the GDP will be from the transaction 50 kilogram multiply with $20. So this $1,000 is the GDP resulting from these activities. Okay, hopefully it's clear enough. And lastly, from this page, there is a case when a car was produced and then and bought again as a used car in the different years. Okay, for sure, when it was produced in 2017 and sold for 200 million. These 200 millions will be recorded in GDP 2017. Okay, in 2020, of course, the sales of the car as a used car, this 100 million rupiah will not be recorded because the production was already made in the past. Okay, so what is recorded in 2020 is the, look at this. Okay, the difference between the selling value of the used car and the purchasing value. Okay, so we have this difference 20 million rupiah. Okay, for this used car. It indicates what? It indicates the value of services provided by the car salesman. Okay, so the services provided by the car salesman, his success in adding the value of the used car from 100 to 120 millions, or the 20 million here, this is what will be included in GDP 2020. This is the first approach of calculating GDP using the expenditure approach, and we know the element of the expenditure approach is this, and we can also express the approach using a mathematical equation like that. All right, and let's now try to answer the following question. We begin with the question number 7, and the answer is quite clear. We're talking about circle flow here in the economy. When we spend some amount of money, there will be a recipient of the money in the economy. All right, so my spending or my expenditure will become other people's income in the economy. Okay, this is the justification of why expenditure approach can be used to calculate GDP, just like in income approach or the production approach. Okay, and then look at number 8. let's identify the components of GDP in this transaction. Okay, first of all, family buy a new TV. Obviously, this is consumption for durable goods. All right. Why it is consumption, not investment, even though the TV is durable goods. But we know that the TV value will likely decrease over time. All right. So it's not it cannot be categorized as investment purchases. Okay, and how about the purchase of new villa by Sultan family? Again, who made the transaction is household, but be careful. New villa, the purchase of new villa is not consumption, but in fact it is the investment. Okay, why it is investment or residential investment? Because purchasing new villa can give us the bigger value in the future when we're selling it, right? And even if we renting the villa, all right, it gives additional value of our villa in the future. Okay, and then how about number 3? Okay, sales minus of chicken snack from its inventory. So let's take a look at this. Again, we're dealing with inventory. Before we know that inventory must be included in the GDP calculation. Okay, as for the expenditure approach, this inventory is part of investment. Okay, investment consists of gross capital formation, okay, plus change in inventory. Okay, when the inventory is increasing, okay, it means more unsold product. So change in inventory will increase, increasing the investment, increasing the GDP. Okay. On the opposite, just like in case number 3, because Indofood at sometimes in the future sells millions of chicken from its inventory, it means here the change in inventory is negative because inventory is decreasing because now it is sold. All right, and the negative, if the change in inventory is negative, so it will reduce the investment level, and at the end it will reduce the GDP. All right, so this activities must be reducing the GDP, as we already know as well. If we use the other logic as well, okay, selling inventory is already recorded in when the goods were produced initially, okay, and when it is sold, it means that the sales of the inventory in the future must be deducted from the future's GDP. Okay, that's what's going on here. All right, and then buying fried chicken, I think it's quite clear. Rebone is also clear, but of course it's service consumption. And paying the salary of the CEO director, of course, it has something to do with the output production of the SOE, right? State-owned enterprise. So when the government pay the salary, so it is categorized as a government spending. Okay, and then how about the government repaves Tamrin Street? Okay, there will be purchase of capital. There's also payment to labor and so on. All right, and whether what spent by government is for investment or for consumption, okay, both will be categorized as government spending. All right, and of course, as long as the payment resulting in products in the economy. Okay, and this one is quite clear. Private firms purchase capital. Okay, it must be investment. And number 9 is also clear enough as well. Since the pension money has nothing to do with the production in the economy, okay, there is no resulting product because of giving pension money to the elders. All right, so it will become just the transfer payment, and all transfer payment will be excluded from the GDP. Okay, and a special case here for the purchase of imported goods. This is imported goods, right? All imported goods must be excluded from the GDP calculation. Why must be excluded? Because we know the definition of GDP, right? It's about the final products made by domestic economy. Okay, if it is made by foreign economy, it must be excluded. All right. And what will be the impact to net export? Net export is X minus M. Since import increases because of the purchase of this bag, for sure import increases, net export decreases. That's quite clear. But how about the GDP? Okay, when there is a purchase of these imported goods, actually it will be reported in this as consumption. Okay, in consumption of household, it will be included here. Yeah, the purchase will be included, will be recorded in consumption. But at the same time, since it is imported goods, it's also reported here. So both C and M increases by the same amount. Okay, since the increase are the same with the same amount, so the purchase of Hermes bag, okay, will increase C, will increase M, and it will cancel out each other. Okay, resulting in what? Resulting in no change in national output or GDP. Okay, now let's try to use the expenditure approach to find the GDP from this particular situation. All right. If we would like to use the expenditure approach, we just have to make sure that we can find the any types of expenditures that is made for purchasing final goods. So we have to make sure that the purchase is on final goods, not intermediary goods. All right. So from this condition, so we know that wool sold by Prawes to Omar, since wool is intermediary goods, so the transaction will be omitted. All right. And what we have now is the sweaters produced by Omar. And we can easily observe that the 3 sweaters are sold to Anissa and her friends. So now we have this spending made by Anissa and her friends for 3 sweaters. For sure, the 3 sweaters are final goods. Okay, and Anissa and her friends make the consumption. Okay, in order to find the GDP is quite simple. Okay, so we just have to multiply 3 sweaters are both by Anissa and her friends, multiply with the value of each sweaters. All right, so the GDP is $150. Now, if we are using the income approach to find the GDP of the same problem as before, okay, so now we have to find the income, okay, resulting from any activities from this situation. Okay, first of all, of course, we can identify from the questions that this receipt of or payment of factor income, depreciation, national income, as indirect tax are not there. All right, so basically GDP in this situation will be the same with the national income. And now let's try to find out the income from each activities. All right, so first, in order to produce wool, okay, Prawes need to farm his sheep. All right, and there is cost borne for farming the sheep. Maybe Prawes needs to pay someone, all right, to find leaves or grass for his sheep's food, all right, and so on. And of course, because of the circle flow, just like the concept of circle flow, the cost borne by Prawes will become income to others. All right. And how big is the income? There's information about this. Okay, the income is $5 to others. And when Prawes successfully sells his wool for $25, of course the profit is not, or the income of for Prawes is not $25, because he has spent $5 for farming his sheep. All right, so the Prawes profit clearly is just $20. 25 minus 5. Okay, and then there is another activity which is production of sweaters worth $150, and also information about the profit made by Omars from selling the sweaters, and the profit is $100. All right, if we already have the $100 of profit, so we know that the difference will be the cost of production for producing sweaters. All right, so the cost of production will be $50, and we already know that $25 goes to wool purchase, and then we still missing another $25. Since there's no specific explicit information about the cost of the 25 other dollars, So we can write something like this. Maybe there will be a non-wool cost incurred from for producing sweaters, and again the non-wool cost will become income to others, to other peoples. All right, the unknown peoples. And how much is this? Yeah, since the value of production of sweaters is $150, we already have 125. So this is the remaining 25 that goes to other peoples. All right, and from this, then it's already complete. $150 here coming from 25, 25, $50 of cost of production plus the profit of $100. And then the last thing is to find how much is the GDP, how much is the total income. Okay, for sure we know that this $25 is already covered here. All right, and then we have another income here, $25, and income here is $100. So in total, again, we get this $150 as the GDP from this problem. Okay, lastly is using the third way to find the GDP, that is using the production approach. And we can return to the same illustration of the production process here. And from this production process, we know that the first value added will goes to the people who were employed, or I don't know, maybe prowess by something from him or from her. All right, that's the value added, the first value added in the production process. Okay, and then from producing wool, there's also value added enjoyed by prowess in the forms of profit is equal to $20. That's the second value added. And then from producing sweaters, all right, there is also a cost borne by Omars, and the cost goes to the to become income for others, and that's what we consider as non-wool costs. All right, then that non-wool cost is the yeah, it's another value added in the production process. And lastly, of course, the value added of producing sweaters is in the forms of Omar's profit, which is as much as $100. And the summation of all the value added here will give us exactly the same amount of GDP as in previous calculation, which is $150. All right, and another thing that we can do when we're using production approach to calculate GDP, so instead of summing the value added, we can also find the total sales value of final products. Okay, and in this problem, it's quite easy to identify. For sure, wool is not final product, but the three sweaters here are the final products because it is used as a final, it is consumed as a final use by Anissa and her friends. All right, so we just have to calculate the value of these three sweater sales, and it is easy to calculate. The value, of course, is three sweaters multiplied with the market price of the sweaters. So final sales is 3 times $50, and it results in exactly the same amount of GDP. Okay, after understanding how to measure the GDP using three different approaches, now let's check how to calculate the nominal GDP, real GDP, economic growth, as well as the GDP deflators. All right, so I provide you with this information first. That's the formula to find the three things that we would like to find. All right. And how do you to apply it? So let's take a look at the problem here. So to make it clear for all of you, look, to find the nominal GDP of the nominal GDP in 2017, we just have to add all the market values of the products in 2017. Since there are only two products, we have to find the market value of the first product and the market value of the second products. Okay, so the market value is always the multiplication of price and quantity. So in 2017, the market value of milk or the first product is 2 times 100. And then the market value of honey in 2017 is the price times quantity, 3 times $50. Okay, so this is the results, nominal GDP in 2017. 2018, 2019 is, of course, the calculation is similar. All right. and here if 2000, so market value is this for milk, and market value for honey is this, okay, and so on. As for the real GDP, all right, the difference is what we would like to again to find the market value, okay, total market value of the products, but using the same price level or constant price. Okay, in this regard, since the base year is 2017, it means that all the calculation in finding the market value is using price in 2017. Okay, so for instance, okay, of course, nominal GDP for and real GDP for 2017 will be the same, all right. But look at in 2018, okay, look at the difference here between this and this. Okay, so the price, okay, the price to find the market value of the first product will be the price that is used in calculating the GDP in 2017. All right, and the same is true for finding the market value for the second product. The price is the price used in 2017. Okay, so take a look at this. We will, in order to find the real GDP in 2018, okay, we'll multiply the quantity with this market price, and this quantity with this market price. Okay, so fortunately, the price and the price of the two goods in 2 years here are the same. As for the third GDP, real GDP in 2019, so look, so the valuation is 200 multiply again with 2, not with 3. Okay, and here 100 multiply with 3, not with 6. Okay, so we can now find the difference between the GDP calculation for nominal and real. Okay, and for GDP deflator is quite simple. We just have to divide the nominal GDP and real GDP, and we already have obtained the results, okay, from the calculation. So finding the GDP deflators in 2017, so just have divide the nominal GDP 350, okay, with the real GDP, okay, and then don't forget to multiply it with 100. Okay, so deflators in 2018, 2019 will be the same. Okay, now from the previous calculation, we try to find calculate the growth rate of nominal GDP, real GDP, and the GDP deflators. Okay, and this is the basic formula to find the growth or the percentage change. So it's we can use the formula for all the calculation of growth. And for the first one, the percentage change or the growth of nominal GDP can be calculated using this formula. So for example, for the growth rate of 2018, it comes from 700 minus 350 per 350 multiplied with 100%. Okay, so using the same formula, we can find the growth rate in 2019 for nominal GDP. And the same is true for the real GDP. We can also use the same formula, and this is the resulting growth rate, and this is the resulting growth rate for GDP deflators. All right, and then look at the question here. For each year, identify the variable that does not change. Okay, as in nominal GDP growth rate calculation, we can easily observe here. From 2017 to 2018, there is no change in price, right? But the output level increased 2 times, all right? That is why the growth rate is 100%. And it comes solely from the increase in output, okay? As for the growth rate in 2019, okay, what is constant is the quantity. There's no change in quantity, but the price level increases. Okay, the price level increases. So if we take a look at this 71.43% actually coming from the increase in price level. All right, so now let's take a look at the calculation of real GDP growth rate. Okay, This is the growth is what we call as economic growth. And as we can observe, of course, when we calculate the real GDP, okay, so there will be a best year. So the price level, look, is always the same in every years, okay. And now we just have well, by looking because the price level are always the same, so any changes in real GDP is always associated with the increase or the decrease or the change in quantity, okay. Just like this, price is the same, price is the same. So what is made the growth rate is the change in quantity. Okay, the output level increased 2 times. That is why the growth rate is 100%. As for in 2019, as we can observe, the price is also still the same. But look, the output level is also the same. That is why there is no growth rate. Okay, there's no growth. The growth rate is 0%. Okay, because there's no change in quantity. Okay, as for the inflation rate, so this is what happens. All right, no change in price level in 2018, but there's a change price level in 2019. All right, what can we observe from this calculation? So look, again in 2018 there is a growth of output, okay, and in 2019 the growth only occurs in price. All right, the output level grow by 0%, but the price level grows by 71.43%. Okay, it's exactly the same with this. Okay, let's answer this next question, 14 and 15. All right, I think it's quite clear. In order to calculate the economic growth, it will be better if we're using the growth rate of the real GDP, because it really measures the change in output level without including the increase or change in price. We know we are concerned about the change in output level because it shows us the how well the economy performs in certain condition or certain years. All right, so if you're using nominal GDP, so here maybe reflecting the increase in output, but here what's happening is the increase in price level. Okay, increasing price level of course doesn't show that the economy is performing better. All right, because of the increase in price. Okay, and for sure GDP is not perfect, okay, because GDP omits these important indicators. But even though the GDP omits these important indicators, but still GDP is quite a powerful measure to to see or to observe about the performance of the economy or the economic well-being. Okay, the indicators, even though that's just the indication. Okay, and this question is quite important as well. Why we are using the index in measuring the aggregate price? So the answer is, of course, it's similar to the calculation of GDP. Since we cannot add the price or the quantity of two different products, all right? We cannot add price of apple and price of orange, all right? If the addition will not give us any relevant information, that is why we need to use the market value, okay? And the market value need to be adjusted in a certain way so we can get the aggregation of prices by also giving weight to the contribution of each good to the price level. Okay, now about measuring inflation using similar problem but with different numbers here. And if we would like to find the inflation using the GDP deflators, I think we already did it. All right, we need to calculate first the nominal GDP, and to find the nominal GDP again, we have to find the summation of the market value of the product in each year. All right, so in 2017 find the market value, 2018 market value, 2019 market value of milk plus market value of honey. Okay, and real GDP, we know that the price must be set constant. Okay, we have to choose the base year. In this case, we have 2017. So here now we have all price level are the same, just the quantity that change. All right, we can only allow change in quantity level. Okay, and then finding the GDP deflators, this is the formula, right? After we know the nominal GDP and the real GDP, we can easily find the deflators, and from these deflators we can find the inflation rate. Okay, the GDP deflator based inflation rate in 2018 according to this calculation. All right, so look, the growth rate of the deflators from 2018 from 2017 to 2018 is 33.3%, and from 2018 to 2019 the growth rate is 68.75%. Now, how about using the inflation using the CPI? In order to use the CPI based calculation of inflation, all right, there are here three calculation that we need to do. All right, first, if we again given this kind of situation, the first thing that we've got to do is to find the basket cost. All right, and remember always in calculating the basket cost of the CPI, okay, the basket is fixed. It means what with fixed? So the quantity of the products in every years are set the same. Okay, so this is the calculation. Let's take a look at this. The cost basket for 2017 is the summation of market value. Okay, and with this quantity in 2017, of course in 2017 is still the same, but look at in 2018. Okay, we allow change in the price level, but the quantity level here, okay, the quantity level are made the same. Okay, Q1 is set always 100, Q2 is always 50. Okay, so to find a basket like this, that's for 2017, and for 2018, price is allowed to change but not the quantity. So it will be something like this, that the value of the first good, the value of the second good is something like this. Okay, price is allowed to change but quantity stay the same, is equal to 50. All right, so it's of course it's different with the calculation of inflation using the GDP deflators, because in GDP deflators the quantity is allowed to change every years. All right, but in CPI calculation the basket is fixed. All right, no change in quantity every years of all products. Okay, now after we know the basket costs, all right, so the next step is to find the CPI, or the consumer price index, and the calculation is to divide the basket cost in one particular year with the basket cost at the set base year. Okay, if the base year is 2017, so all the basket cost will be divided by the basket cost in 2017. So something like this. Okay, CPI will be 2017 divided by 2017 in 2018, also is still divided by consumer basket in 2017, and then for multiply with 100. So here we got the value of CPI in 3 years, and after that we calculate again the percentage change and the resulting percentage change, that's what we call CPI based inflation rate. Okay, so we obtain here 50% in 2018 and 50% as well in 2019. Okay, okay, to answer this question, we already have the calculation before, and this is the summary and the comparison between inflation using the GDP deflator methods and the CPI methods. And in 2018, we can observe the CPI inflation is bigger, but in 2019, it is smaller compared to GDP deflator inflation. Okay, and there's an interesting question here about the possibility of CPI overstate inflation in 2018, and we can easily observe here. Of course, to calculate the inflation in 2018, we need two data, which is 2017 data and 2018, and we can omit this information because what? There's no change in price as well as in quantity. But for milk in 2017 and 18, look, there is an increased price of milk in 2018, but at the same time, the consumers reduce the consumption of milk in 2018. All right, so if we're using the CPI to do the calculation of inflation, all right, the basket is fixed. It means that in 2017, this is the market value of milk. In 2018, the basket for milk is this multiplied again with 100 quantities of milk. Okay, but in fact, as we can observe, if we're using a flexible basket, actually in 2018, the quantity of milk is lower. All right, so this is possibility why CPI, yes, may overstate the inflation in 2018. Okay, because the weight of milk in constituting the aggregator price will be higher because of the use of this fixed basket. All right, because these $2 will be multiplied with 100 instead of 50. All right, and how about the question here? Inflation is higher than expected. Who will be better off? Of course, when inflation is higher than expected, so the worth or the value of the money will be lower, right? Value of money will be lower. So when you are the borrowers or the debtors, okay, it will be good for you. All right, you will be better off because it means that you have to pay the same amount of money but with the lower value. Okay, and quite similar with this situation, getting 1 million now or next year, which one will you prefer? It depends on the existence of inflation. If there is inflation, okay, for sure the same amount of money in the future will have less value. All right, because of inflation. That is why, because of the inflation, getting 1 million now will be better than getting 1 million next year. Okay, this is the last thing in the video about the unemployment. Just one question to be answered here, and I would like to make a revision as well because from my past video, I write it L per P. Okay, the right formula is M per M. Okay, the labor force participation is the division between labor force, okay, with the manpower or the percentage of manpower who enter the labor market. That's labor force participation. Okay, and then the question here, if currently you are just studying, not working, nor willing to work, are you categorized as unemployed in the economy? I think is quite clear about the answer. Okay, because if you are not looking for the job, okay, or if you're just focusing on your study, it means you're not entering the labor force. So you are not in labor force. If you are not in labor force, you cannot be categorized as unemployed persons, even though that you are not working. Okay, that's all from me. Hopefully it helps you understand better about the concept and about the applications of the calculation. And I'm really sorry about giving you additional materials like this because it cannot be covered during the online session. Thank you for the attention. See you in other occasions. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.